सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। In the previous class, we completed up to the 46th shloka, which covered up to the 434th nama. So we will begin with the 47th shloka in this class. Please repeat once after me. Anirvinnasthavishto bhuhu
Anirvinnasthavishto bhuhu
Dharmayupo mahamakaha
Dharmayupo mahamakaha
Nakshatranemirnakshatri
Nakshatranemirnakshatri
Kshamaha kshamassamihanaha. This 47th shloka contains 10 namas of Bhagavan, starting from 435. Just a second. It's okay now? Yeah. So this 47th shloka contains 10 namas totally of Bhagavan, starting from 435 to 444. 435th nama. It's going to be all worship day today. We have seen that the way the namas are grouped, they are not only connected to each other, but we also see that they all cover in and around a same subject. Every set of shloka or every set of 2 shlokas that we take, they all are covered in and around a similar topic. So today it's going to be all worship day. Okay, so 435 Anirvinnaha. There is some problem in the mic. Anirvinnaha. Anirvinnaha will appear for one more time as the 892nd nama. Now, Bhagavan in his absolute form or in his absolute Swarupa does not have any form, does not have any name also. But here in Vishnu Sahasranama we attribute 1000 names to him, referring to each and every form. Why do we do that? It is because we as Jivas try to understand Bhagavan from our standpoint of view. To support that, to enable that, whatever we know, whatever glories we experience and appreciate around us, we refer to it as Bhagavan. And whatever deficiencies we experience as individuals, we see how Bhagavan is free of all that. As Jivas, we easily get disinterested with things. Anything that we do for some time, the monotony sets in and we are bored with it. The Monday is called Black Monday. It's Monday morning here in India. Monday blues. Yeah, okay. Now from good that it's from black it has turned to blue. Slowly we yeah. You get beaten black and blue. Okay. So while it is still a very nice Sunday evening in the US, here When it is Monday, people start waiting for Friday. Right? Again, you wait for the weekend. And what do you do in the weekend? So, weekends are not meant for you to get weekend more. It is for you to strengthen yourself through Shastra studies. So, Jiva, who gets tired very, very easily with things, who gets bored with things and tired with things, is called Nirvinnaha. One who gets tired. You get tired with your work. That's why this system of voluntary retirement scheme was introduced. So that you if you are tired, you don't have to work. You can sit at home, and we will have some freshers coming in. So this is how we had this system. So that you will be free to do what you want, and the others are also having some opportunity to do what they want. Therefore, Jiva is called Nirvinnaha because he gets tired. But how is Bhagavan? Bhagavan does not have a weekend. Bhagavan does not have a holiday. He has to keep the Srishti going. And the work that he has taken up is not any ordinary work, it is the greatest of all work. It is Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. What is more difficult of the three is Sthiti, right? Keeping everything in good condition in the way it has to be and to keep it going. And Bhagavan cannot go on vacation. Just imagine you wake up in the morning and you don't find the sun rise at all. It is still dark. And sun has gone on a holiday. What will you do? You wake up in the morning to find that there is oxygen supply has come down because Vayu Devata wants to take off. He is approaching his weekend. What will happen to all of us? And it has not rained during the rainy season because Varuna Devata has gone on leave. It has turned colder because Agni Devata has gone on leave. What will happen? So all of them around us, all the Devatas, Bhagavan in the form of every Devata, is continuously working to maintain and protect us. He is called Anirvinnaha and he doesn't get tired at all. Just like how he had been working with all enthusiasm at the beginning of the Srishti, even after so many yugas, so many manvantaras, Bhagavan continues to work with the same enthusiasm. He is never short of enthusiasm. Every quality he has, it is in full measure. That is Bhagavan. Therefore, here Pujya Swamiji mentions that Bhagavan doesn't lose interest at all in anything because he is Avapta Sarvakamaha. He is Avapta Sarvakama because all his wants are already fulfilled. Avapta Sarvakamaha. He does not have any desire that is left unfulfilled because he does not have any expectations at all. Therefore, he does not have any dejections also. Every dejection that we face in life is because of the expectation that we had. Right? So, Bhagavan does not have any expectation, therefore, no dejections, therefore, there is no desire to accomplish or to get fulfilled. Therefore, he is Avapta Sarvakamaha. Therefore, he does not lose interest in anything. And therefore, he is called Anirvinnaha in this 435th Nama. 436. Stavishtaha. Stavishtaha. Stavishtaha already occurred as the 53rd Nama. In the 53rd Nama, we saw that it refers to the entire body of Bhagavan, which is the stoutest. Stavishtaha. In English, we study degrees of comparison, right? Good, better, best. Fat, fatter, fattest. Stout, stouter, stoutest. In the same manner, you have degrees of comparison in Sanskritam grammar also. Stulaha, Staviyan Stavishtaha. There is another way of saying this, Stulaha, Stulathara, Stulatama. That is one way of expressing. The other way of expression is Stulaha, Staviyan, Stavishtaha. That means one who is the stoutest or the grossest. With that meaning, we saw that in the 53rd Nama, when we saw that it refers to Bhagavan's cosmic form, Virat, the entire universe as his body. There in 53, we saw that the reason he is called Stavishtaha is because Atishayena Stulaha. Acharya says, Shankaracharya says, he is Atishayena Stulaha. He is so gross, which does not have any comparison. He is so stout, so big, so huge, that he does not have any comparison at all with him. Here, in the 436th Nama, what does Stavishtaha mean? Here, Acharya says, he is the one who has expanded as the entire cosmos. This Nama here is not with reference to the Upadhi, the body, but it is with reference to the Chaitanyam that has manifested in this Virat Upadhi. In just to follow what Pujya Swamiji says, it is the entire Virat, the entire physical universe with its order, along with its order. Here Pujya Swamiji also quotes the Mundaka Upanishad, where it describes the entire Virat, the entire Vishwarupa. Mundaka Upanishad says, Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Suryau Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vivrittascha Vedaha Vayuf Prano Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbyam Prithvi Hyesha Sarva Bhutantaratma. Agni Devata is his head. The sun and the moon are his eyes. All the directions are his ears. The Veda is Bhagavan's speech. And the entire Samashti Prana is Bhagavan's breath. The entire universe is the heart, the Hridayam of Bhagavan, with the earth as the feet. Now, what happens to the human mind is, human mind generally has a tendency to bring the entire description of this kind of Vishwarupa description into a form. We start imagining the sun is there, moon is here, so one eye is there, one eye is here, and the eye is close to the feet because Prithvi is his feet, and the entire universe is the heart, so all the eyes and feet is inside the heart. Now, try to understand that Vishwarupa is not any one form. Because we are so used to worshipping Bhagavan in a given form, that what we tend to do is, when the description of Vishwarupa is given, we try to bring that in one form. Vishwarupa means all form is Bhagavan. Every form that you see is his manifestation. To bring this idea, a description is given by attributing every aspect of the universe to as though every organ in the body of Bhagavan. So the idea is, every form is Bhagavan. And in Vishwarupa, it is infinite. You cannot bring it under one form. And this is why, this tendency of, somehow bringing the entire Vishwa in one form, in Ekarupa, this is why we have the picture of Vishwarupa and all. Have you seen one body with many heads, many hands? So what is outside of that body, the sky, the ground outside, and what is seen outside is not Bhagavan. It is so difficult to picturize Vishwarupa also, and it is, we get into this tendency of imagining it this way. So never do it. Understand that Bhagavan is all forms. All forms meaning every form that you see is nothing but his own manifestation. It is his own. It is that. It is in that way in which he expresses. Here in 436, we saw that the meaning of Stavishtaha is more with reference to the Chaitanyam that has manifested in the Upadhi of Virat, the cosmic universal body. Sarva Bhutantaratma. He who has manifested in all forms is also the Antaratma, the self of every being. It is Paramatma himself who has assumed the universal body and is also the universal deity, the Antaratma of every being in this universe. 437. 437th Nama, grammatically, as per the Sandhi rules of Sanskritam, you can take it as Abuhu or you can also take it as Buhu. Both ways are right. So we will see the meaning of both these namas. Abuhu means he who is unborn, he who does not have birth. Buhu. Buhu has two meanings. One is existence. Bhu Satayam. Existence is one meaning. The second meaning of Bhuhu is earth, the most popular meaning. Bhumi. Bhuhu means earth. Now, in this changing universe, Bhagavan being Stavishtaha, he assumes one form or the other, right? Because the forms are born and gone. Therefore, Bhagavan keeps assuming one form or the other. Seemingly, continuously, he keeps assuming one form or the other. But in reality, he is the one who does not have any form. He is never born. Therefore, he is Abuhu. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Ajaha api, even though I am, hey Arjuna, even though I am the one who does not have birth, not subjected to birth, and being the Ishvara of all the beings in this universe, what I do is with the help of my Maya, I assume a body as though and I take avatara as and when necessary. Therefore, Bhagavan continuously seems to assume one form or the other, while in his reality he is Abuhu, Janma Rahitaha. He does not have any Janma. Or Bhagavan is in the form of existence of everything. Bhuhu. He is in the form of the Sat, the pure existence, which brings everything and beings in this earth or in this universe to existence. When you say table is, book is, sun is, star is, planet is, the entire galaxy is, the existence of anything that you talk about is Bhagavan, the very existence, Bhuhu. Also, Bhuhu meaning earth. Bhagavan is also in the form of the earth. Here, when you say earth, this is the Upalakshana, an indicative example. No, it's an indication of the entire Panchabhuta group. So when you say Bhuhu, it is Upalakshana of the entire Panchabhuta, meaning Bhagavan is not only in the form of the earth, he is in the form of the space, the air, Agni, Jala, and also the Prithvi. That completes the 437th Nama. 438. Dharma Yupaha. Dharma Yupaha. Now, Yupa. Yupa means a sacrificial post which is used in some of the very specific yajnas or yagas which are done as per the injunctions of the Veda. The Vedic yaga, some of the Vedic yagas use a sacrificial post which is called yupa. This yupa is a wooden post which is octagonal in shape, eight sided. Okay, so in this yupa is used to tie the animal or any offering that is going to be sacrificed in the agni of the yaga. Now, these offerings are done only on a specific purpose, which is generally for the benefit of all. It is never done for the benefit of any individual or something. All right. So, this yupa is not considered as a mere wood. In the yaga, even in the yajna procedure, the yupa itself is seen as the devata that is being worshipped through the yajna. Therefore, and also as per the Karma Kanda, this yupa is supposed to connect the bhumi and the swarga. So it is revered as very sacred. And here, Bhagavan is referred to as yupa. What kind of yupa is he? What kind of post is he? He is the dharma yupa. Meaning, he is the post, the adhisthana, the center, the hub to which all the values are tied. So, all the values, any value that you take, any virtue that you take, is all connected to Bhagavan. It is all centered on Bhagavan. Therefore, where one needs to lead a dharmic life, a dharmic life, okay, if you say a dharmic life continuously, it would mean the opposite. So, I am being very careful. Where one wants to be a dharmika, he wants to lead dharmic life, he has to connect with Ishvara necessarily. Without connecting to Ishvara, who is the Dharma Yupa himself, there is no way one can lead, or one is supposed to be, or one can be called as a Dharmika. And without being a Dharmika, forget about moksha purushartha. When dharma itself is not adhered by the person, where is the question of moksha? In other words, where one does not lead a religious life, there is no way one can enter spirituality. If at all somebody tells you that I am not religious but I am spiritual, he is only saying that he does not understand what religion means, he does not understand what spirituality means. That is what he is saying. You know, in Malayalam, there is a saying which Paramarthananda Swamiji quotes very often. Anjanam ennadu jnanariyum adu manjalu pole velithirikkum. Anjanam means the kajal that, you know, is applied for the eye. Anjanam ennadu jnanariyum. I know what anjanam is, and it looks like the turmeric in white color, which is white in color. Manjalu pole velithirikkum. So this fellow is telling, he knows what kajal is. It looks like the turmeric in white color. So he does not know black, he does not know yellow, he does not know white also. So a person who says, I am not religious but I am spiritual, does not know both religion and spirituality. Therefore, Bhagavan is Dharma Yupaha, and you worship Bhagavan to get all the values, because he is full of all values. 439, Maha Makaha. I told you today is going to be a day of worship. All. Okay, please mute it. Yeah, thank you. Maha Makaha. Makha means a yajna or a yaga, a sacrifice or a form of worship. Now, this makha is used with, in general, it is used with reference to the Vedic karmas. Every Vedic karma in the Karma Kanda are generally done for a result. They are capable of generating a highest result, which is called Chitta Shuddhi, but which is called purity of mind. Okay, but generally they are done for any worldly result. Here, Bhagavan is called Maha Makaha, meaning he is Makaha, he is the very worship itself. The very form of worship itself is Makaha. And he is called Maha Makaha, meaning the greatest worship. When does a yajna become great? Greatest yajna. When does any yajna or any form of worship, when does it become really great? It becomes great when the result that is got out of it is the highest, is great. No? Only then the yajna becomes great. So, what is the greatest result that Bhagavan can give to all the worshippers? What is the greatest result? The greatest result that Bhagavan can give is moksha. The greatest result is moksha. We have already seen in the earlier namas is that Bhagavan is not only the dhata for karma pala, he is also the dhata of jnana pala. So, Bhagavan is the giver of moksha. But is moksha acquired through yajna yagas? Here, in this context, moksha, though it is not acquired through yajna yagas, Bhagavan is called Maha Makaha because he gives the highest result, moksha, to all the people who do the worship. Therefore, the sadhana of worship or the yajna gives moksha not directly but indirectly. It is not sakshat sadhanam, not a direct means of moksha, but an indirect means, parampara sadhanam. Because through the yajna, one gains chitta shuddhi, and with the chitta shuddhi, for such a pure person who has renounced the worldly accomplishment that is obtainable, who is not focused on any worldly, acquiring any worldly enjoyment for himself, but is with the focus of acquiring Bhagavan himself as the result. To such a person, to such a mumukshu, Bhagavan is so overwhelmed with his bhavana that Bhagavan gives himself as the result, not any simple worldly object. Therefore, where a yajna is done properly, the very worship itself becomes an offering to Bhagavan, and this mumukshu gains chitta shuddhi, and thereafter, in the process, gradually acquires a guru, does shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Through shravana, he gains jnana. With manana, he gains clarity in knowledge, and through nididhyasana, there is jnana nishtha prapti. Therefore, all the yajnas in Gita 4th chapter also, Bhagavan says this very clearly. He says, any yajna that you do, the purpose of any yajna is to culminate in jnanam. Only then the religious life is complete. Otherwise, no yajna is complete if it does not culminate in jnanam. Therefore, Bhagavan gives himself, that is the limitless, as the result for the yajna. By giving himself the limitless as the result of the yajna, he makes the yajna mahan or mahat. Therefore, he is called Maha Makaha. 440. Nakshatra Nemihi. Nakshatra Nemi. Nemi meaning the hub or the center. Here it does not refer to the moon. Okay, the namas are very close. Nakshatra Nemihi and Nakshatri. Here as nakshatra nemihi, it does not refer to the moon. It refers to Dhruva nakshatra, the pole star, okay, which is supposed to be the hub, the center of the wheel of nakshatras. And in the 441st Nama, Bhagavan is called Nakshatri, meaning the Lord of all the nakshatras, which refers to Chandra Devata or the moon. I think you know about this a little bit. You know, when we talk of the Panchanga, and now you have the Panchanga being posted in for the Nalanda batch also every day, right? Are we? We are only doing it for, yeah, we didn't do it for Nalanda because we are in different time zones and it should not be done that way. So it is always a good practice to read the Panchanga in that from the standpoint of the time zone you are. And one of the angas of the Panchanga is nakshatra. And the nakshatra for the day is known in simple terms. When you look at the moon from the earth, from wherever you are, you see a group of stars around the moon. That is the nakshatra for the day. That pattern keeps changing every day. If you have observed the moon, the pattern around the moon keeps changing every day, which denotes the nakshatra for every day. And the nakshatra is taken as the day, or we don't have a day number in our calendar, traditional calendar system. We have a nakshatra, we have a name for every day, named after the nakshatra. And the lord of the nakshatras is Shashihi. Like in the 10th chapter of Gita, Bhagavan says, Nakshratranam aham Shashi. I am the lord of all nakshatras. 442. Kshamaha. Shankaracharya gives two meanings here for this nama. Kshamaha. Kshama means patience. So the one who is very patient. In Ramayana, Bhagavan Rama is described by Maharishi Valmiki as Kshamaya Prithvi Samaha. In patience, Rama is like Bhumata. This Bhumata, this earth, you keep digging all around, and then a lot of mining work happens, and then where it comes to brick making, there is a lot of, again, you cause a lot of pain to Bhumata. And in the city, especially in Chennai, there is already a lot of traffic diversion because metro work going on, and everywhere you dig. And in so many developed countries, in the developed cities, you have the system of the subs, the trains that go underneath, and you have also various levels. I think up to 5 levels you have below the zero, right? So all this are constructed by digging and causing some hani to Bhumata. There is so much of pollution that is done to the soil, and also, at least minimum, there is this digging for borewell and water, right? So much you do to Bhumi, she doesn't get angry on you at all, right? Anybody who disturbs us even a little, who causes pain to us even a little, we start shouting at them. We instantly react to them, to whatever they do, and we react very violently also. But Bhumata has been patiently forbearing whatever we have been doing to her, and she doesn't cause earthquake everywhere we dig, right? What will happen? So she's been so patient. How much patience she has. Similarly, Bhagavan is full of patience. And where a sadhaka finds that he needs to cultivate some patience, he looks up to Bhagavan and he draws patience from Bhagavan, who is all patient. He is full of patience. This is the first meaning. The second meaning of Kshamaha is efficient. The one who is efficient. Bhagavan is so efficient in all his work. And what is his work? The greatest of all work. Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. 443. Kshamaha. Kshamaha will appear for one more time as the 854th Nama. We saw that Bhagavan is Stavishtaha, the stoutest, right? Here in 443, Kshamaha means the one who is very, very thin. At the time of Pralaya, what happens is Bhagavan resolves all the forms. All Namarupas are resolved, they are withdrawn. And what remains is only his causal form. Right? So, from the grossest form at Pralaya, it is just the causal form. So, from Stavishtaha to Kshamaha. That is the 443rd Nama. 444. Samihanaha. Samihanaha. Samyak ihate iti samihanaha. One who performs his work very well. Samyak ihate. Where one performs a work, he is supposed to perform using all the resources efficiently and judiciously, right? So, minimum time has to be taken to complete the work. Minimum resources, should not waste the resources. Minimum manpower has to be taken, and with minimum effort itself, if somebody is able to achieve the result that has to be accomplished, if one is able to accomplish that, then he is the greatest worker, right? So, always for any work, this is how it has to be done. Yet, it should not be done because minimum time was taken, only half was completed. Not that way. Yet, it should be proper and adequate to achieve the objective. That is how it has to be. Bhagavan is Samyak Ihana, meaning he has used all of these resources in optimum level and has also employed them efficiently in his greatest work of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. Therefore, he is Samihanaha. That completes the 47th Nama. 47th Shloka. We move on to the 48th Shloka. Please repeat once after me. Yajna yajyo mahejyascha kratus satram satangatihi सर्वदर्शी विमुक्तात्मा सर्वज्ञो ज्ञानमुत्तमम्. This 48th shloka also has 10 namas from 445 to 454. 445th nama, Yajnaha. This will occur for one more time as the 971st Nama. Here in 445, it means one who exists in the form of the rituals or the worship itself. Therefore, Bhagavan is called Yajnaha because he alone is in the form of every yajna that is performed. Now, generally, this term Yajna or Yaga is used with reference to any Vedic form of worship or Vedic ritual that is being performed. For example, Soma Yaga is a yaga which is prescribed by the Vedas. Now, in any form of worship, not just the form of worship that is prescribed by the Veda, any form of worship can be called as Yajnaha. Yajna, that shabda is derived from yaj dhatu, which means to worship. So, any form of worship can be called yajna, and the Shastras prescribe 5 forms of worship which is compulsory for every householder. It is called Panchamaha Yajna, Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna. The 4th is Manushya Yajna and the 5th is Bhuta Yajna. Deva Yajna is worship of any deity, Bhagavan in any form. So going to temples, doing puja, going for yatra, any form of these kind of worships is will fall under the category of Deva Yajna. Pitru Yajna, this is very famous. Okay, and now we are going through the fortnight of Malaya Paksha, right? The entire Paksha is dedicated for Pitru Yajna, to the forefathers, to your parents. Now, Pitra is generally the term used for parents and the ancestors. It does not mean that if you say Pitra, they are dead only. They can be alive also. Okay? So, whether they are alive or dead, one is supposed to worship them. For Pitri Yajna. The third Yajna is Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna. Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna refers to study of scriptures. Either chanting them even without knowing the meaning is also okay, or studying the meaning of the scriptures, just like how we are doing now, right now in this Vishnu Sahasranama class. This is Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna. So this is a gratitude that we pay to the rishis who have given this text, who have protected and perpetuated this text all these years so that we are able to study it today. This is Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna. Then you have Manushya Yajna, serving the humanity. Not only giving food, money, or clothes to people who are in need, it also includes a smile or saying hello. That is so costly today. People cannot even smile. I thought it was only so in the West, but even in India also I see that happening. Nobody knows who is the neighbor. Those days we never used to close the door. The door will always be open. And whatever happens in our house is known to the entire community. The next day morning, my neighbor auntie used to ask me, "What, you got your marks yesterday?" So it is, we all lived not as a community, but the entire community was almost a family. That is the way it used to be. But today, nobody knows who stays, and no child wants to play with the other child. Every child is alone. Manushya Yajna. And the last, not the least, is Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is the worship or paying gratitude to all other living beings other than the Manushya. You owe your gratitude to the plant kingdom, to the animal kingdom, to every insect and microbe, right? Otherwise, you won't have fruits. You will not have dosa batter, idli batter without their help, right? So, paying your gratitude. This is why we have a system of putting kolam outside our houses, right? Kolam is not just a decoration, okay? It is to feed all the small insects. And we should at least have a system of watering at least one plant, keeping them in the house. Today you have a lot of variety of indoor plants also. So that I am staying in an apartment and I don't have an independent house is not a reason for not growing plants. At least one tulasi plant or some plant you grow, water it every day. It's very important. The attitude, it is not just the karma that is done here, it is the attitude that goes behind the karma, which is very, very important. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna makes it very, very clear that every duty that you do, every duty that comes before you is to be done as a worship. And he talks of the greatest of yajna as Jnana Yajna, the study of Shastra itself, along with its meaning. That is considered to be the greatest form of his worship. He says this in the 4th chapter. He also recalls this in the 18th chapter, where he says, I am the one who is being worshipped in the form of this entire study of Bhagavad Gita. This is the greatest form of my worship. So, and also he mentions about Swadhyaya Yajna in the 4th chapter, which means general recitation of any text, either Vedic chanting or chanting of any stotra or anything. And also Japa Yajna. Japa is not recitation, it is repetition of a nama, while Swadhyaya or Parayana is recitation of a text. Now, where one does his duty as an offering to Bhagavan, as a worship to Ishvara, with awareness, with that bhavana, that is called Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. Then it becomes Yajna, where you physically do the puja and you keep talking in between or watching something, a cricket match goes and this person keeps watching the cricket match while doing the puja. And suddenly this mama finds that there is no karpura and he bangs the bell at mommy. Where is the karpura? Where is the naivedya? It is not merely the physical action that is done as worship. What is worship is the bhavana that one carries behind the action. That makes it worship. And through that dharma, Ishvara is worshipped. In case of one's own duties, duties mean there is no choice. You are not asked whether you like to do or you don't like to do. That is not the question at all. When it becomes your duty, there is the question of whether I like it or I don't like it. Right? So, who likes to get up early in the morning? But if I have to get up to go for work or go to school, I have to do it, right? Nobody is asking you, you like to get up in the morning to go to school? Every child will say no. Right? So when it comes, when it boils down to duty, finally, there is no raga or dvesha which is in question. It is what has to be done, and it is a mandate. Every duty is a mandate from Ishvara because it is your dharma, it is swadharma. And the awareness that every form of my duty, every duty that I perform, my dharma, it is Ishvara alone who is in that form because he is Yajnaha. He is the every form of worship that I do. Therefore, he is also the duty that I perform. When this becomes evident to that sadhaka's mind, then the offering, the every action that he does, the duty that he performs becomes the worship to Ishvara. That is the 45th nama. In Taittiriya Samhita, it says, Yajno vai Vishnuhu. Bhagavan Vishnu is the Yajna itself. And we study here, that which is the Veda Vakya in Taittiriya Samhita is explained by just one nama here in Vishnu Sahasranama. 446. Ijyaha. Ijyaha. Bhagavan is the Yajna we saw. And what about the person who is worshipped through the Yajna? If Bhagavan is the Yajna itself, who is the person then who is worshipped through the Yajna? Who is the object of worship in the Yajna? That is also Bhagavan. Bhagavan is in the form of the worship and he is also the Devata that is worshipped through the Yajna. Every Devata or every Pitru that you worship, every Rishi that is worshipped, every human being that is worshipped through the Manushya Yajna, or every being that is worshipped through the Bhuta Yajna, every form is Bhagavan. Every object of worship is Bhagavan. Here Pujya Swamiji recalls Harivamsha. He says a part in Harivamsha that occurs. He says, whether you worship any Devata or you meditate or contemplate upon any Devata, the Atma, the self of every Devata is Bhagavan Vishnu alone. Therefore, in any form of worship, the one who is worshipped is Bhagavan alone. In Gita, Bhagavan says in the 9th chapter, Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddayarchitum ichchati tasya tasyachalam shraddam tameva vidadamyaham. Anyone who worships Bhagavan in any form, any name, in any religion, who is being worshipped? It is me, Arjuna, who is being worshipped. Therefore, every worship is Bhagavan and every worshipped is also Bhagavan alone. 447. Mahejyaha. Mahejyaha. He is the greatest object of worship. Now, why is he called as the greatest object of worship? We saw that every object of worship is Bhagavan only. Generally, every form, every devata that is worshipped is worshipped by people for accomplishing any worldly thing, any worldly pleasure or any arthakama that they want to fulfill. Right? Now, all these accomplishments, which are to fulfill the desire of the individual, are limited. They are limited by times, space, and the object. Right? So, one accomplishment does not mean the other accomplishment. If one worships to acquire US visa, he will acquire only US visa. He will not acquire UK visa. Right? So, every worship, every result that is obtained from the worship, every accomplishment is limited by time, space, and the form also. Here, Bhagavan is referred to as the Mahejyaha. He is the greatest object because he gives the greatest. For the one who wants the infinite. For a mumukshu, the one who wants moksha, he is only the Ijyaha. He is the one who is worshipped. Right? And therefore, Bhagavan gives moksha to that person. Not directly, indirectly. Doesn't mean that I worship Bhagavan, I will get moksha. I worship Bhagavan, I get chitta shuddhi, thereafter guru prapti, thereafter jnana prapti, therefore moksha prapti. Okay, therefore, paramparaya, worship of Bhagavan leads to the greatest. Since he gives the greatest, he is the greatest object of worship, Mahejyaha. 448. Kratuhu. Kratu is a specific Vedic ritual which involves the yupa, the sacrificial post. 449. Satram. Satram is another form of Vedic ritual. Here, this ritual is very big. It runs for days and years, where a lot of people are involved in the yajna, and it also involves a lot of supply of food. Food distribution is there. That is why even today, any place that distributes food freely is called satram. And Bhagavan alone is in the form of all these dharmic activities which goes to the benefit of the society at large. Therefore, Bhagavan, and this Satrayaga we commonly see in the Puranas. When we study the Puranas and the Itihasas, we are about to begin the Mahabharata, and the Mahabharata starts with a samvada between Suta Maharishi and Shaunaka Rishis, where Suta Rishi says that he learnt the entire story of Mahabharata recited by Maharishi Vaishampayana in the Satrayaga, the Yagashala of Janamejaya Raja, when he was performing the Satrayaga. So, all the kings and the great people those times used to perform such yagas for the benefit of the society. Here, Bhagavan is called a Satram, the very yaga itself. And he is called a Satra also because he protects the Satpurushas. Sataha Trayate. Therefore, he is called Satra. 450. Satam Gatihi. This nama is occurring for the second time here. We already saw this nama as the 184th nama. There we saw that Bhagavan, being the destination of all good people, he is Satam Gatihi. There, Acharya made it clear that it was with reference to Dharma, Artha, Kama, Purushartha. Satam Vaidikanam Purushartha Sadhana Hetuhu Satam Gatihi. This was the explanation given by Shankaracharya for the 184th nama Satam Gatihi. Here, as the 450th nama, Satam Gati, Bhagavan is the end, the destination with respect to Moksha Purushartha. He is the only end that is desired by the Satpurushas, the Mumukshus, because no other end appeals to such people. Satam mumukshunam nanya gatiriti satam gatihi. They don't settle for anything less. They only want the infinite. To such people, Bhagavan is the destination. Satam gatihi. Shall we see a few more? Because I think we lost some time. Do we have a few more minutes to complete this? Sarvadarshi. Sarvadarshi. The one who sees everything. In today's terms, he is the CCTV camera that is installed everywhere. He sees everything. Bhagavan is Sarvadarshi. So how many cameras does he have all around the universe? All through the 14 lokas, how many cameras, how many computers have to be installed for Bhagavan to view and monitor everybody's action? Right? Bhagavan is supposed to view every action that you do, every thought that occurs in your mind, because he is the Karma Paladata. Right? So how many computers, how many cameras, and what big team should he have to monitor all this and to ensure the appropriate results are given? The greatest thing about Bhagavan is he is the Sarvadarshi without the use of even a single gadget. And being formless, he does not have eyes also. He does not have any gadget. He does not need any eyes. Without this, he is Sarvadarshi. How is that possible? Pujya Swamiji very beautifully quotes here. He says, because he is Swabhavikena Bodhena. He knows every action of the jiva all by himself. And he assesses the actions of the jiva, whether it is kayika, vachika or manasika. He assesses every action of the jiva, whether it is in keeping with dharma or is it adharma, and accounts for their punya papa. Therefore, he is Sarvadarshi, he is all-seeing and all-knowing. 452. Vimuktatma. He is ever liberated. He is never bound at all. Because mukti is his very nature, it is his very swarupa, he is vimuktaha. He is muktaha, and he is vimuktaha because he is ever liberated, and he is also the atma of every being. Therefore, he is vimukta atma. Vimuktatma. 453. Sarvagnaha. This will occur for one more time as the 815th nama. We will see the meaning there later. Here in 453, very, very beautifully, Acharya has given this nama. Acharya says, the one who is both Sarvaha and the one who is Nyaha also. Meaning, the one who is the all and the one who is all knowledge also. In Samskrita, Acharya has beautifully written this as considering this nama to be a compound, a karmadharaya compound. Sarvascha asau nyascha iti sarvagnaha. The one who is both sarva and knowledge. He is all and he is knowledge. The last nama, jnanam uttamam. He is sarvagnaha. Therefore, he has knowledge of all things. But at the same time, in his swarupa, he is jnana, meaning he is the consciousness itself, which is uttamam. Uttamam meaning ajanyaha, it was never born. So because this knowledge is not like any other vrittik jnanam, any vrittik jnanam, so I say, see, this is a voice recorder. So now you have a thought of voice recorder. Now voice recorder is gone. So vrittik jnanam comes and goes. Bhagavan as jnana, as his swarupa, is not like vrittik jnana that is temporary or short-lived, that comes and goes. He is always there as the swarupa, as the very jnana, which is never born or gone, and it is not limited by time, space or object. Any vrittik jnana is limited by time, space and also the object. Whereas Bhagavan in his swarupa as the Chaitanyam is not limited by time, space, or any object. Therefore, he is Uttama. Recalling Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma. There, Jnanam refers to consciousness principle. This completes the 454th Nama and also the 48th Shloka. So, we will close the class here and we will see the rest of the Namas from the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.